Today's lesson is Till Death or Climate Change Do Us Part. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to talk about a really big bird that primarily lives over the ocean. We're talking about the albatross. I've never seen an albatross before. Have you seen one before, Mike?
It's a great big seabird that lives by the sea, so I can't say for sure, Roger. I've seen some pretty big seabirds in my life, but I can't really tell you if it's a difference between an albatross or a really big seagull, so I would say no.
Yeah, I haven't seen them before. I'm not from a place that has the ocean nearby, so I didn't have a chance to see an albatross when I grew up. But I've heard that albatrosses, like the blue magpie here in Taiwan, are very loyal to their partners, and that's why we have this title, Till Death Do Us Part. That's kind of a vow people swear when they get married. We'll stay together till death do us part until we die. Then we'll separate. And the same is true about albatrosses.
Absolutely. They're very well known for having a long life as well, like many of the larger birds. So we're going to learn all about them as we read the first part of our article. Till death or climate change do us part. With a lifespan of about 70 years, albatrosses typically stay with the same partner for life. While such a commitment may seem romantic, this monogamy actually serves a practical purpose: to raise babies. Being a parent is tough, especially when albatrosses must take turns flying out to sea in search of food, sometimes staying away for months, while their partner looks after the baby. As a couple, the birds build mutual trust and communication, qualities needed to be good parents. In fact, when separation does occur, it's usually due to failed reproduction.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 commitment， 指忠诚、奉献或是承诺。举例来说 ，Mary works hard in order to show her commitment to the company. Mary 认真工作来表现她对公司的忠诚。或是 Terry didn't want to get married right away because he was not ready for such a big commitment. Terry 不想要马上结婚，因为他还没准备好要做出这么大的承诺。另外补充这个字的动词 commit, C-O-M-M-I-T, commit, 表示投入或是致力于点点点。我们可以说 The organization committed itself to ending illegal animal trafficking. 该机构致力于终止非法动物买卖。或是 Jeffrey committed himself to finishing the training program at the top of his class. Jeffrey 全心投入，要在受训结业时取得全班第一名。接着我们看到名词 communication， 指沟通、交流或是通讯，像是 The internet has improved communication across the world. 网络改善了跨世界的通讯。也可以说 Sign language is a form of communication used by people who are hearing disabled. 手语是失聪者使用的一种沟通方式。另外补充这个字的动词 communicate, C-O-M-M-U-N-I-C-A-T-E, communicate, 指沟通或是通讯。我们可以说 There are many fast and easy ways to communicate with people around the world. 有很多快速简单的方法可以和世界各地的人沟通交流。也可以说 Stacy gave her mom a new cell phone so that they can communicate with each other. Stacy 给妈妈一只新手机，好让他们可以互相联系。再来我们看到单字 reproduction， 这个字是名词，指繁殖、生育或是复制品。像是 One of the examples of artificial reproduction is external fertilization. 人工生殖的其中一个例子是体外受精。也可以说 My father's poster company prints reproductions of famous paintings. 我父亲的海报公司印制名画的复制品。另外这个字的动词 reproduce, R-E-P-R-O-D-U-C-E, reproduce, 意思是繁衍、生殖或是重现。举例来说 Rabbits are known to reproduce very quickly. 兔子以快速繁殖而出名。或是 Although he tried and tried, the scientist couldn't reproduce the results of the experiment. 虽然那位科学家不断地尝试，但他还是没办法重现那个实验的结果。
Okay, let's talk about the first part of our article for today. Now, let's pay attention to the title here. It says, Till Death or Climate Change Do Us Part. Now, that's kind of tricky here. We've got the original phrase, Till Death Do Us Part. And as I said in the introduction, that is said at weddings when the bride and the groom promise that they'll stay together until they die. But we've got something kind of in the middle here, Till Death or Climate Change Do Us Part. So, evidently, climate change is now starting to affect relationships, not only for people, but also for albatrosses.
Well, that's a pretty sad state of affairs. It would be a really unhappy situation if a marriage broke up because of climate change. So let's find out what it says here about albatrosses. It says with a lifespan of about 70 years, albatrosses typically stay with the same partner for life. That's why we use this till death do us part. Sure, a lifespan, that's basically what science sort of says is the average period that this living thing will be alive. Basically, how old you could expect it to reach on average before it dies. Humans have a lifespan of 75 to 85 years, around that, depending on where you live in the world. And dogs, of course, have a lifespan of, I believe, 8 to 12 years. Cats, it's a little bit longer. And some birds are quite well known, like parrots, I believe, are quite well known as having a long lifespan, 30 or 40 years. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. Albatrosses and humans, in a very similar way, have a lifespan of 70 or so years. And then it says, while such a commitment may seem romantic, this monogamy actually serves a practical purpose: to raise babies. A sentence that could also be written for humans, really, because when we make this commitment, we're making a promise. That promise that you make to love a person, to cherish the person, to honor them, till death do you part, that is a commitment. When we see the word commitment, we're basically thinking of a promise, a group of words, a vow, something you say that you plan to sort of stick to and live by as a life rule for a very long time. And of course, when we're talking about marriage, we're talking about monogamy, when one person marries another person for basically their whole lives.
Right. If a man has many wives like the Mormons used to, then that's called polygamy. P-O-L-Y, that means many, but here monogamy, of course, is referring to one partner, and that is the ideal. And remember, with commitment, we've got the verb to commit. You want to commit to a relationship. You want to sign on the dotted line and get married and have that contract so that if you break the contract, you're in big trouble. So, of course, we want this commitment to last all your life. And yes, indeed, this is monogamy here, having just one partner. And being a parent is tough, especially when albatrosses must take turns flying out to sea in search of food, sometimes staying away for months, while their partner looks after the baby. Yes, indeed, for albatrosses, it is very difficult to be a parent. It's difficult, it's tough. Especially when you have this duty. You've got to fly out to sea and you take turns. Sometimes the father, the husband, flies out to sea to look for food, and then sometimes it's the mother's turn. They take turns.
That's very interesting. And of course, they're taking turns flying out in search of food. This is basically looking for food. We often use this when talking about nature, animals. You might say, oh, I'm going out to the supermarket in search of toilet paper or something like that, talking about things that are generally a little bit hard to find, as we would imagine finding fish and other things that albatross would eat. Finding fish out in the middle of an ocean would be quite difficult. So in search of food, it says sometimes they stay away for months while their partner looks after the baby. Again, quite common, especially with birds living in these far-off, distant places. Penguins have a similar situation. One partner looks for food, the other one stays in the nest with the babies. As a couple, the birds build mutual trust and communication, qualities needed to be good parents. I'm starting to think that maybe albatross have something to teach humans about how to be good parents, because these are all very worthwhile and noble types of actions and ways of behaving when you're taking care of your young ones. These birds build mutual trust and communication. Again, important for people. When we have mutual trust, mutual means from both sides, basically. If there's mutual trust, I trust you and you trust me. Neither of us are sort of holding back secret questions and suspicions and doubts and things like that. If it's a mutual agreement, both parties agreed. If it's a mutual relationship, both parties in the relationship are getting the same sort of thing out of it. So that's what we talk about when basically the relationship is fairly even and equal. So mutual trust, they trust each other. You'll take care of the kids, I know that. While I get food, I won't come back till I get the food. You know that. We trust each other. And they communicate. Communication is when you talk to someone, when you share information, when you share your opinions and things like that. So yeah, trusting your partner, communicating with your partner, these are definitely qualities that good parents and a good relationship would need.
Yep, they build that mutual trust over time. They trust each other eventually. And of course, they learn how to communicate. And of course, as you know, if you're married, these are good qualities that you need to have if you want to be good parents and if you want to keep your marriage healthy and not get divorced. And in fact, when separation does occur, it's usually due to failed reproduction. So sometimes albatrosses break up just like humans do. They have a big knockdown, drag-out fight, and they, of course, decide to end their relationship. I'm never going to talk to you again. The feeling is mutual. So, again, they will have separation. They will go their separate ways, but it's not because they had that big argument. Maybe they did, who knows, but in any case, it's usually due, or it's usually because they had failed reproduction. And reproduction, of course, is creating babies because people need to keep on reproducing themselves in order for the species to survive. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's go on now to the second part.
However, new data gathered over 15 years on black-browed albatrosses indicate that rising ocean temperatures have been responsible for increases in albatross separation rates. What's more alarming is that some albatross couples separated even when reproduction was successful. Scientists have put forth two reasons for this phenomenon. Higher water temperatures may have forced albatrosses to fly farther for food. If they fail to return home for the breeding season, their partner may decide to find a new mate. Furthermore, warmer ocean waters raise albatross stress hormones, and heightened stress levels can lead to divorce.
最后第二部分我们看到单字 heighten 这个字是动词，指使增强或是加强。举例来说 The wine heightens the flavor of the beef. 红酒让牛肉风味更升级。另外，课文中 heighten 的用法为过去分词做形容词用，表示更高的。我们可以说 Dogs have a heightened sense of smell. 狗对嗅觉的敏锐度更高。
Okay, let's explain the second part here. It goes on to say, however, new data gathered over 15 years on black-browed albatrosses indicate that rising ocean temperatures have been responsible for increases in albatross separation rates. So basically, we've got some scientists working on albatrosses, and they've gathered some data, some information. They've been doing this for 15 years on one specific species of albatross, the black-browed albatross, and the new information indicates or tells us that warmer oceans, rising ocean temperatures, have been responsible for increases in albatrosses separating. Because the ocean is getting warmer, I guess that's causing the albatrosses to have more arguments, and they're deciding to break up because of it.
Arguing over the temperature of the ocean or the shower or something like that. It could be that. It could also, of course, be because the fish are moving in different ways. Maybe the albatross have to travel further to hunt the fish and things like that. So it leads to these separations. This would be sort of like the wife and the kids living in one country or one city, and the husband husband for work reasons living in another city or another country, or vice versa. Maybe the husband stays home and the wife has to travel off somewhere far away for work. What's more alarming, it says, is that some albatross couples separated even when reproduction was successful. So even when they do manage to have their babies, they still might separate. It seems that living together is turning out to be much harder than it used to be, and a lot of the scientists are blaming climate change. Now, why exactly would climate change be creating these sort of two household albatross families with one parent in one place and the other parent and the kids in a second place? Well, scientists have put forth two reasons for this phenomenon. So when they put forth something, basically you have an idea, you put it out there to see what other people think. We might use the other verb to propose. To propose something, I say, I think this is a good idea. What do you think? So you're inviting comment and criticism, maybe alternate points of view or something like that. So they don't exactly know, basically, but these are their two best guesses. These are their two proposed explanations. Higher water temperatures may have forced albatrosses to fly farther for food. Well, yeah, we're seeing this in many species all around the world for all sorts of reasons, but it often does come down to changing temperatures leads to changing growth patterns for certain plants that they might eat and changing travel and behavior for animals that other creatures might hunt. As the globe changes, animals change, the world changes, and so that forces changes in behavior. That sounds reasonable to me.
And if they fail to return home for the breeding season, their partner may decide to find a new mate.
Uh-oh.
Indeed, they won't want to wait for husband or honey to return. I'm tired of waiting for you. I've got these kids to raise, and you're just out there flying around over the ocean, and I have no idea when you're coming back. So, of course, the albatross may miss the breeding season. Breeding refers to when boys and girls get together to create babies. And in many animal species, they do this during certain times of the year. So if one of the albatrosses misses the breeding season, hey, they'll probably feel betrayed and think, hey, we could have had some kids there, but you didn't show up. I was all ready for you. So they may decide to look for someone else.
I guess that can happen. Furthermore, warmer ocean waters raise albatross stress hormones, and heightened stress levels can lead to divorce. Again, we could see parallels in a human family, a human household. So this sentence begins with that word furthermore. This is like saying and, also, in addition. We're adding another different but related point to a series of explanations or arguments or something. We're saying this is one of those red flags in a conversation to say, hey, pay attention. I have one more thing to add. There's one more important thing I want to mention. What is this extra point that they want to make? Warmer ocean waters raise albatross stress hormones, and heightened stress levels can lead to divorce. So that's very interesting. I didn't know that, but I'm not an albatross. But apparently as the oceans get warmer, albatrosses get more stressed. It raises their stress hormones. Hormones are those chemicals produced by our brain and in other parts of our body from our glands that basically send messages and trigger our body to do things. When you go from a child to an adult in your teen years through puberty, of course, you have a lot of hormones. People who are pregnant might have hormones. These types of things define a lot of the differences between men and women and things like that. So basically, as our hormones change, our behavior changes, our bodies change, things change. And apparently these stress hormones in albatross are triggered by warmer ocean waters or ocean temperatures. And this heightened stress levels can lead to divorce. Well, sure, definitely. If you have a heightened stress level, that means your stress level is higher. The height of something, of course, is how high or how tall it might be. If something is heightened, it's going higher, it's getting taller, it's getting bigger also. We often use it in that way. So the more stressed you are, the more you might argue with your partner. And of course, even in humans, well, especially in humans, this can lead to divorce. Notice how they put the word divorce in quotations there. We're not actually talking about albatrosses going to albatross family court with a lawyer and dividing up the house and the kids and all that stuff. That's what humans would do in a proper legal divorce, which is the ending of a marriage. But I think here they're basically just saying, as kind of a joke, relating it to humans, the albatrosses will move to different places. Mom and dad will break up, that kind of thing.
Indeed, they will separate, they will get divorced, and it will be the end of their relationship. Okay, and that's the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third part. It's kind of short, but we'll listen to it anyway.
Climate change has threatened the survival of many creatures, but in this case, it's causing the ruin of one of the most fascinating and delicate relationships in the animal kingdom.
Okay, here's the final paragraph, the final part of today's lesson. It says, climate change has threatened the survival of many creatures, but in this case, it's causing the ruin of one of the most fascinating and delicate relationships in the animal kingdom. Indeed, it is unique, it is special that albatrosses stay together for life. They trust each other, they have a mutual relationship, they have a lifelong commitment, but climate change or global warming, the greenhouse effect, has threatened the survival of albatrosses and other kinds of creatures as well. I wonder if it's an effect on the family structure of the Formosan blue magpie. What do you think?
Quite possibly, because all animals are very much at risk because of climate change.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time to listen now to Henny, our beloved Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分第二句写道 While such a commitment may seem romantic, this monogamy actually... 然后课文下一句还提到说 Albatrosses must take turns flying out to sea in search of food... while their partner looks after the baby. 好，文中这边用到2次 while， 可是用法是不同的。我们就来整理一下 while 当连接词的不同意思吧。好，第一个呢，我们可以用 while 去表达虽然尽管，那这时候意思就跟 though 或者是 although 一样，用来引导让步副词子句。那要特别注意，像我们用 while 或者是 though 或是 although 的时候，它们不能跟连接词 but 一起使用哦。这些连接词啊，它们只需要择一使用就可以表达出虽然怎么样但是怎么样的语义。举例来说 While the car is old, it's still in good condition. 尽管这辆车子旧了，但它的车况还是很好。我们用 while 就可以表达出尽管怎么样但怎么样咯。好，第二个呢，我们可以用 while 去表达而，然而，这边是用来连接2个对比或不同的陈述，意思就相当于 whereas 是拼作 W-H-E-R-E-A-S。 好，举例来说 While Ben enjoys sci-fi movies,His girlfriend prefers rom-coms. Ben 喜欢看科幻电影，而他的女朋友比较喜欢浪漫喜剧片。这个 rom-com 就是 romantic comedy， 浪漫喜剧片的意思咯。好，那我们也用 whereas 来造一个例句，像我们可以说 Anne wears makeup every day, whereas her sister rarely bothers to do it. Anne 天天化妆，而她妹妹很少花心思在这上面。好，那第三个呢，我们可以用 while 去表达那种 during the time that 的那种意思，就是什么在什么什么期间啊，或是与什么什么同时，用来引导时间副词子句。举例来说 The phone rang while he was taking a shower. 他在洗澡的时候电话响了。好，那这边要补充一下 while 当这个意思来解释的时候，如果连接的2个子句主词一样，我们可以省略 while 后面的主词，然后把它的动词改成分词，也就是说 while 引导的这个副词子句呢，会被简化成 while 加上动词 ing 或者是 while 加上 pp。 动词是主动呢，我们就会用现在分词 ving， 那被动就只要保留pp 就好了。举例来说 Pam watched TV while knitting. Tim 在吃东西的时候一边看电视，或者是 He often listens to podcasts while stuck in traffic. 他被困在车阵时常听播客节目。那这两个例句当中，我们就看到一个是 while knitting， 直接在 while 后面加上现在分词 knitting。那么第二个例句里面，我们看到 while 后面直接接了 stuck 这个 PP 动词。好，再来我们最后补充一下，文中它有用到 monogamy 这个单字。它的字首 mono 呢，有 single 或是 alone 的意思，也就是单一或独自。那么 gamy 指的是 marriage 婚姻结婚，那把两个字组合在一起，表示一夫一妻制 monogamy。 这边也来补充两个有相同字首的单字哦，像第一个 monopoly 这个字呢，它的字首 mono 表示单一， poly 表示贩售，合在一起Monopoly 就是垄断、独占的意思。再来还有 monologue， mono 表示独自， logue 表示说话，那合在一起 monologue 就是指独白、独角戏的意思咯。好，那么以上是今天的重点整理，我们回顾这些单字吧。
Commitment. Joe is afraid of commitment and has therefore never been in a serious relationship. Mutual.Many long-lasting friendships are built on mutual interests. Communication. That department suffers from a lack of communication. Breeding. Fish belonging to that species lay millions of eggs during breeding season. Furthermore, Julia recently lost her job. Furthermore, she has bills to pay. Hormone. Hormones are your body's chemical messengers, and they perform various functions. Divorce.Kyla told her husband that she planned to file for divorce.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, in your opinion, what is the root cause of the problem mentioned in the article? What could be done to solve the problem?
That's a great question. The problem is complex, but I think the biggest factor is climate change. If we were to address this problem, we would have to basically stop burning so much fossil fuel, really change the way we produce energy and use energy on our planet. So it's a big challenge, but it's a challenge we're going to have to face.
Well, the problem is complex, but I think the biggest factor is cosmic radiation, and it is not climate change. I've done some reading on the internet. I found some interesting websites that suggest that all these changes in the world are due to increases in cosmic radiation, and it has nothing to do with global warming.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.